I slipped the dress over my head, pulling the zipper up with slow, deliberate fingers. No makeup, hair a mess, barefoot, and my chest as flat as the sidewalk. But the girl in the mirror, she was there. Not the awkward figure gawking back at me, but someone else beneath the surface. Someone softer, brighter, possible. Like a Polaroid half developed, teasing a picture I couldn't quite reach yet. If I could just learn how, if I tried a little harder, maybe I could become her. The dress slid off my shoulders, and I folded it neatly, hiding it like I always did. My parents wouldn't understand. Hell, I didn't understand. I just knew how I felt, even before I had the words. I'd only ever been allowed to dress like this twice once for a school costume party where I went as Snow White, and before that, a Halloween when I wore a Cinderella gown. That had been it, officially. Everything else was in secret mom's clothes, her lipstick, a few stolen minutes, and a million little lies. When I had time and patience, I could almost make myself passable. Almost. But time was the rarest thing. As I tucked everything away again, I sighed. It'd be a while before I'd get another chance. For this kind of dressing up, I was just the right build, barely 5'6", maybe 120 pounds soaking wet. Too skinny for a typical guy, just right for a girl. And I'd let my hair grow to my shoulders, not on purpose at first, but once I saw how it framed my face. Yeah, I kept it that way. The tricky part was figuring out how to explore this side of me without turning my parents into volcanoes of outrage. Still lost in thought, I headed outside to wash my car. That's when Josh showed up. Hey! Hey yourself, I called back, grabbing the sponge. What's up? I need a girl. Yeah, you always need a girl, I smirked, wringing out the rag. Yeah, but this time I need a special kind of girl. Those kinds of girls usually charge by the hour, and you're broke. You got that right, he laughed. But nah, this one's gotta be like us. I blinked. Like us? A guy. Sort of. You're losing me here, man. Josh scratched the back of his neck, looking like he wanted to disappear into the pavement. So there's this weird party at the country club, some charity thing the old ladies dreamed up. They're calling it a mixed-up wedding. They pulled names of the members' sons to dress up as brides. Full gown, veil, the works. And each bride needs a groom. My name got pulled. I raised a brow. Josh was built like a linebacker, 6'2", a wall of muscle and buzz-cut bravado. The image of him in a wedding dress was apocalyptic. Let me guess, I said, trying not to laugh. They took one look and decided you'd snap the high heels in half. Exactly. So they gave me a pass. I get to be a groom instead. But the catch is, I've got to find a bride. A guy willing to play the part. And there it was. My heart started pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. This could be it. The excuse. The permission. A legit reason to be her, in daylight. Still, I played it cool, real cool. You interested? He asked. You want me to be your bride? I scoffed. What makes you think I'd go for something like that? Because you're half my size. You've got the hair. And honestly, I just figured you might be up for it, that's all. No offense. None taken, I said, then paused, chewing on the idea. Me? A bride? That's a stretch, man. I mean, it's not like I strut around in dresses all the time or anything. But let's say, just for argument's sake, I said yes. What's in it for me? Other than public humiliation, I mean. Josh grinned. Fancy dinner, dancing, a personal wedding cake, and the pleasure of my charming company. I rolled my eyes. Tempting, but I'd have to ask my folks. Don't hold your breath. He gave a lazy wave and wandered off, leaving me staring at the sudsy water like it held the answer to everything. A bride. The bride. The crown jewel of femininity. My pulse still hadn't slowed. I finished the car and grabbed the vacuum. While I was bent under the dash, a finger tapped my side. I turned and saw Mom standing there. Hi, Mom, I said quickly. Just cleaning up. It looks good, sweetheart, she said. then paused, her eyes narrowing just a little. Did Josh drop by? Yay, and he was talking nonsense. Let me guess. He asked you to be his bride for that party? I froze. Yeah, that's the nonsense part. I told him I'd have to think about it and ask you first. Wait, how did you know? Linda told me yesterday. We got to chatting, she said, then fixed me with a look I'd seen before. The mom knows things look. I didn't say anything at the time, but considering how often my clothes go missing from the closet, I doubt you're shocked he asked. I opened my mouth to object, but she lifted a hand. Let's skip the denials. The party's not until fall 4 months. That's plenty of time to get used to skirts, figure out makeup, maybe even learn to enjoy it. Her tone softened, but the words held weight. If you're going to be a beautiful bride, that is. She knew. My mind blanked out, my tongue knotted. But I didn't say anything. Didn't dare. She gestured for me to come inside when I was done. Said she wanted to talk. I put the cleaning stuff away faster than ever and followed her into the house, nerves jangling like wind chimes in a storm. She was waiting in the family room, calm, composed, and very much ready to have the talk. The weight of Mom's words hadn't even settled when she laid out the rules like a judge handing down a sentence. Only this one felt like a strange, glittering gift wrapped in steel. If I wanted to dress like a girl, if I wanted to be a girl, then I was going to do it right. Starting tomorrow, all the way until the party. 4 months, no breaks. No backing out. And just like that, it wasn't a suggestion. It was decided. I tried not to show it, but inside I was spinning. This thing I'd kept buried in silence for so long was now out in the open, and instead of being punished or ridiculed, I was being pushed into it, coached even, encouraged. I want you to go to your room and strip to your briefs, Mom said, already moving toward the hallway. I'll take your measurements, and then we'll figure out what you need to get by until we can go shopping properly. Josh's mom will cover the wedding outfit, but the rest is on us. If we're spending money, I want your wardrobe to actually fit and look good on you. Now scoot. I slipped off to my room, nerves bubbling, my fingers clumsy as I undressed. When Mom stepped in a moment later, she didn't start with the tape measure. She sat on the edge of my bed and looked me straight in the eye. I know you've been sneaking into my clothes, but let's be fair. I need you to be honest with me. Are you willing to do this? Not just for the party, but for all 4 months? Are you willing to really try? If you say no, I expect this little habit of yours to stop. Completely. But if you say yes, I'll help you. I'll make sure you not only look the part, but become the best-dressed teenage girl this town's ever seen. There was no hesitation, not even a flicker. Yes, Mom, I said, my voice firm despite the storm inside me. I'd like to be Josh's bride. She didn't smile, didn't smirk, just nodded once, and got to work measuring every inch of me like a tailor prepping for a runway debut. As she worked, she outlined her plan. First thing tomorrow, she'd get me the basics. Enough to get started. Once I was dressed and ready, we'd hit her beauty studio hair, nails, the works, and then we'd shop for real. A full wardrobe. The idea of stepping outside the house dressed like a girl made my skin hum with excitement and terror. It was a dream come true, but one I'd only ever dared to play out behind closed doors. When she was done, she handed me a bottle of hair remover and a bottle of bubble bath. I want you smooth, clean, and fresh by morning. Hairless, washed, shampooed. Understood? I nodded, clutching the bottles like they were relics from some initiation rite. As soon as she left, I headed for the bathroom, locked the door, and began the transformation. The cream smelled like death and burned like it too. But when I stepped into the shower and rinsed it off, the hair went with it. All of it. Gone. The drain caught the proof. I filled the tub with hot water and foam, sank in deep, and let it hold me while I shaved every reachable inch of skin. When I stepped out, wrapped in a towel, my skin felt like silk. Alien, but amazing. I moisturized until I couldn't stop touching my own arms. I looked different. Not completely, but enough to whisper closer. Sliding into my jeans afterward felt weird. The denim rasped against my bare legs like sandpaper on satin. Even my socks felt foreign. But I threw on a tee, laced up my sneakers, and walked out the door like I was on autopilot. I needed to tell Josh. He was under his car, greasy and half invisible, when I found him. "I'll do it," I said simply. He wriggled out from under the vehicle, eyes wide. "You will?" "Yeah," I said, scratching the back of my neck. Still don't know if I'll make a convincing girl, but when I told my mom, well, let's just say she had thoughts. Thoughts? Strange ones. I'm not even sure I get them yet. I'll see how tomorrow goes and let you know more. But one thing, if you laugh when you see me, it's over. I mean it. Josh raised a hand like he was swearing an oath. No laughs. I promise. I'll let Mom know you're in. He stood up, tall enough to cast a shadow over me like a tree. So, when do I get to meet the bride? You'll know when I do. I left before he could say more, heading home with a strange mix of adrenaline and dread knotting in my stomach. All I could think about was how I'd look. If I ended up just some clumsy guy in a dress, it would be over no matter how much I'd wanted it. I wasn't going to humiliate myself for anyone, but if I looked right, if I looked like her, then I could say I was just practicing, just doing what I had to for the party. After all, there'd be a dozen others doing the same thing. I wouldn't be alone. Still, as I slipped in through the back door, I wasn't expecting to see Dad standing there. "I hear you're going to be Josh's bride," he said, arms crossed. "Yeah, Dad. Should be fun," I said lightly. He gave me a nod of approval. "Well, I'm proud of you, son. Takes guts to wear a dress. Just remember what I always say, do your best. No one can fault you for that." "I will, Dad, I promise." I almost laughed. He clearly had no idea what Mom had in mind. But that was the beauty of it. Doing my best could mean exactly what Mom planned. Dressing every day, learning every trick, every movement, every detail, until I could walk, talk, and breathe like the girl I saw in the mirror. He might try to stop me, but I had a feeling Mom was already preparing her next move. Once we stepped into that beauty studio, there'd be no turning back. Not for me, not for him. And I knew one thing for sure: if I didn't pick out a hairstyle I actually liked, Mom would absolutely choose one for me. And there were worse fates than being seen in a dress, like being stuck with a perm from the 80s. So I sat down at my desk, went online, and hunted through pages of hairstyles. Something soft, something with shape, a little flip at the ends, maybe. When I found a few that felt right, ones that whispered her, I printed them out and laid them on my bed like a secret collection of dreams just about to come true. At least I'd have something to go on at the beauty studio. I'd picked out a few styles, printed them, and tucked them away. When I heard Mom come in, I stayed in my room. No way I was going to sprint out there like a kid on Christmas morning, even though my insides were already doing cartwheels. She knew. She definitely knew. But it was Dad I wasn't sure about. That was the wild card. A few minutes later, Mom appeared in the doorway with an armful of plastic bags and a raised eyebrow that told me she'd clocked my fake nonchalance from a mile away. "I picked up a few things to get us started," she said, laying the contents neatly on my bed. "A cheap bra, panties, pantyhose, a skirt, blouse, and a pair of flats. Based on your shoe size, they should fit. We'll get you ready for your debut first thing after breakfast." As soon as she left, I pounced. I tore through the packaging like it was sacred treasure, because to me, it was. The skirt was a deep green, soft and plain, just brushing above the knees. The blouse was crisp and white with short sleeves and a modest collar. Nothing flashy, but it screamed femininity in the most casual way. The bra had a touch of lace, just enough to hint at softness, and the panties were simple white cotton. The flats were black with a rounded toe and a quiet elegance. Everything about it felt real, grounding, like the first bricks of a house I'd dreamed of living in forever. That night at dinner, things were normal, or at least as normal as they could be when you're sitting at a table, knowing you'll be in pantyhose and pigtails by the next morning. Dad casually mentioned he'd be out most of the next day, then added, "But stay dressed, I want to see what you look like." I swallowed hard. If Mom was serious, and she always was, he'd see plenty. Sleep did not come easily. My mind was a runaway train of what-ifs and fantasies, tumbling over themselves in a tangled knot. Every wish I'd ever whispered silently was finally cracking open, but I had to play it carefully. Couldn't look too eager. Couldn't act like I'd been waiting for this since forever, even though I had. If I was going to pull this off around my friends, I'd need to ease into it, stumble a little, laugh at myself, maybe even roll my eyes. Let them think I was just coping. They didn't know that I'd picked out my name years ago. Brianna Nicole. The name had lived in my head like a secret melody, tucked away until it was safe to sing it out loud. I glanced at the closet, where my new clothes now hung my clothes. It felt like a movie set, unreal but thrilling. The moonlight caught on the hem of the skirt, and I smiled before drifting into dreams I'd never remember, but would feel the glow of for days. Dad was out the door by 7. By 7:30, Mom was in my room, clipboard of tasks in her tone and determination in her step. I was already in the panties, couldn't help myself. She watched with an amused expression as I fumbled with the bra, until she finally sighed and showed me how to fasten it in front and twist it around. It hugged my chest like it belonged there, snug and transformative. "Try these instead of socks," she said, handing me a pair of soft, flesh-toned breast forms. "They'll work better." Better? They were perfect. Slipping them into the cups, I felt my breath catch. My reflection. I actually had a shape. No cleavage, but a curve. A softness. Something new. Something right. Next up, hair and makeup. In her room, I sat at the vanity as she misted my hair, combing and parting it precisely down the middle. She worked fast, with the confidence of someone who'd done this 100 times before. Bangs tumbled into my eyes as she pulled my hair into twin pigtails, securing them with a white ribbon. It was childish, girlish, absolutely undeniable. Then came the real challenge: makeup. I wanted to pretend I knew what I was doing, but truthfully, my past attempts made me look like a low-budget clown. "Foundation goes on light, 2 fingers only, no trowels," Mom said, watching me carefully. I did as she instructed, tapping and blending until my skin looked almost smooth. Powder came next, then a pause as I reached for lipstick. "Hold it," she said. "You're not ready yet." Eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara. She kept it simple but effective. Soft green and a hint of plum danced across my eyelids. A faint brown line above each eye, green pencil below. Mascara turned my lashes from invisible to bold. The result? Stunning. The girl in the mirror didn't look like a boy in costume. She looked like someone possible, someone I could be. It was hard to believe that such a small change made such a big difference. My hands trembled as I buttoned the blouse and slid into the pantyhose. The skirt came next, zipper in the back naturally. Shoes fit like they were made for me. "Now the lipstick," Mom said. "Use the pinkish red." As I leaned in to apply it, she set a small purse beside me on the bed. I caught my reflection again, and something in me swelled. "You're quite pretty," Mom said softly. "Better than you expected, I bet. So, what do we call you now?" I didn't hesitate. "Brianna," I said, my cheeks aching from how wide I was smiling. She didn't question it, just nodded, grabbed her purse, and waited by the door. I followed her out the house, every step shaky but electric. For the first time ever, I was dressed as a girl, in daylight, walking toward the car like this was just another Tuesday. I buckled myself in without being told. As we pulled away, I spotted Josh pushing a mower across his lawn. He didn't even glance up. The beauty studio was nearly empty when we arrived. Quiet, intimate, like a temple. This was it. I was Brianna now. The woman who met us at the beauty studio, probably the owner, greeted Mom like an old friend. Introductions were quick and casual, and then I was ushered to a chair before I had time to second-guess anything. My stylist was maybe in her 40s, striking in a no-nonsense way, with perfectly shaped eyebrows and hands that looked like they could fix a car or apply eyeliner with equal skill. "Just a trim, honey?" she asked, wrapping the cape around my shoulders. "I actually brought these," I stammered, holding out the printouts like a peace offering. She flipped through them, nodding. "Cute. We'll go with this one, but soften it a bit. You're a little young for the full look." She tilted the chair back and began washing my hair, fingers firm but gentle as they massaged shampoo into my scalp. "Just relax, sweetheart. I know what I'm doing." And she did. Mom was getting her own touch-up a few chairs over, chatting with the owner like it was any other Tuesday. Neither of them looked over once, like this was completely normal. When the stylist finished rinsing, she sectioned my hair, wrapped tiny strands around foil-covered rollers, and pinned them so tight I could practically hear my scalp protesting. I didn't say a word, not wanting to sound like a baby. Then came the chemicals, something thick and slightly caustic, slathered over my head like cake frosting from a lab. A portable dryer was wheeled over and clamped into place around my head, the warm drone surrounding me like a cocoon. She took my hands next, and I blinked in surprise as she began working on my nails. One by one, she cleaned, filed, pushed, trimmed, transforming them from chewed stubs to something delicate. Then came the acrylics. Wet sand-textured globs smoothed out and sculpted over each nail, shaped with little plastic guides, then polished a soft rose that shimmered under the overhead lights. My fingertips didn't feel like mine anymore. They looked elegant, delicate feminine. By the time I was done baking under the dryer, my head felt like a Thanksgiving turkey. She pulled out the rollers, brushed my hair gently, then rubbed in something that made my eyes water from the smell alone. Another rinse, another dry. But when she spun the chair around to face the mirror, I couldn't speak. My plain brown hair had become a glowing auburn, the exact color I'd shown her in the photo, and the style soft waves that danced around my jaw, curling gently under, feathering at the ends. It was everything I didn't know I needed. I watched her trim, fluff, arrange. A few touches here and there, a spritz of something that smelled like peach and hairspray. I looked like a girl, not just passable, not barely scraping by. A girl. My hands moved, and flashes of rose pink flickered in my peripheral vision. The scent of hair products and the lingering heat on my scalp, the tickle of hair near my ears, the gentle resistance of my pantyhose underneath the skirt, it was all pulling me deeper. I had chased this feeling for years in quiet, shame-filled moments. Now I was inside it. "Just wash and let it air dry," the stylist chirped. "A few strokes with the brush, and it'll pop right back into shape." Mom finally looked up and beamed. "That color's perfect on you, Brianna. Was that your idea?" I froze because I hadn't said a word about the color. "Oh, Brianna brought in a photo," the stylist said. "I just matched it the best I could. It really suits her, doesn't it?" "Absolutely. With her complexion? It's beautiful. That's a perm, isn't it?" "Body perm, yep. Her hair's naturally too straight for the style, so now she's set for a good 6 months. A perm." I'd just gotten a 6-month commitment without even realizing it. And yet, I couldn't stop smiling. I didn't say a word because honestly, I loved it. Every bit of it. Mom paid the bill, and we walked out, me trying not to skip like a giddy kindergartner. I caught my reflection in the glass doors and felt the rush all over again. I looked like someone I'd always wanted to be. There wasn't a trace of him in that reflection. We didn't go home. Instead, Mom steered the car straight to the Springwood Mall and marched into the lingerie section of the department store like we were on a military mission. "Start with panties," she muttered, thrusting pairs into my arms like rations. I followed behind, wide-eyed as she filled our cart with bras 3 more. And this time I got to pick them, then padded panties, slips, nightgowns, a waist nipper, and a satin robe that made my knees feel weak. We hit the dress section next, where I picked out 4 skirts, 3 dresses, a couple pairs of jeans that hugged in all the right places, plus tops, blouses, and a soft winter coat in powder blue. In the shoe section, I ended up with 3 pairs of heels, black, white, taupe, plus gym shoes in white and pink. By the time we staggered to the car, my arms were sore from the weight of everything. Then she dragged me back in. As we passed a piercing kiosk, she looped her arm through mine and veered off course. "You need your ears pierced, Brianna. Everything's post these days. It'll save money in the long run. Sit." Before I could even reply, I was in the chair. A second later, click, click, my ears stung and tingled, tiny gold studs gleaming back at me from the mirror. We stocked up while the sale was hot. 12 pairs of earrings, bracelets, barrettes, bows, clips, necklaces, rings. My accessory drawer was about to explode. Then, as we strolled through the mall, I spotted one of those glittering makeup boutiques and hesitated just long enough for Mom to notice. "Something wrong?" she asked. "No, it's just—" I paused. "Maybe your makeup isn't the right shade for me?" She didn't even blink. "Let's find out." The place smelled like every flower in the world had been boiled down into a potion. It hit me like a perfume grenade. A woman approached, smiling brightly, and asked if I wanted a makeover. With Mom right behind me, I nodded. She handed me a towelette. I wiped my face clean, sat down, and let her work. If she suspected anything, if she knew I couldn't tell. She treated me just like any other girl. 20 minutes later, I looked into the mirror and forgot how to breathe. If I had looked like a girl before, now I looked like the girl. Polished, perfect, everything in balance. The right blush, the right shimmer. I asked Mom if we could buy everything the woman had used, and she didn't hesitate. When we finally got home, I carried bag after bag into the house. My fingers still tingling with newness, my ears still warm, my reflection still haunting me in the best possible way. As I began putting away all my new clothes, my skirts, my nightgowns, my heels, I knew deep down that something huge had shifted. This wasn't just an outfit anymore. It was me. Mom let me unpack my new wardrobe without hovering, not saying a word about how I looked, though, after the day we'd had. I didn't expect her to. She'd seen it all unfold. Maybe she'd even planned most of it. She had that kind of quiet confidence, like she already knew exactly how I'd turn out. Like she'd seen me as Brianna before I had the nerve to see it myself. It took me an hour to organize everything, folding, hanging, arranging. Each piece had a place now, not just in my closet, but in my life. My old clothes looked out of place, like they belonged to someone else. Someone I was quietly shedding, layer by layer. Eventually, I couldn't resist. I picked out the red skirt, the pleated one that flirted with my mid-thigh, and a white pullover top with nothing but 2 slim straps holding it up. I slipped on the white padded panty briefs first, liking the way they rounded me out, then got dressed, pulled on my new gym shoes, and headed downstairs. "Just going to Josh's," I said to Mom. "He deserves to see what he's getting. Plus, I kinda want to blow his mind." She waved me off like this was the most natural thing in the world. I stepped outside alone for the first time as Brianna, without Mom at my side, without anyone to buffer me from the world. And yet, I felt incredible, light, confident. Every step made my skirt sway, a rhythmic whisper of fabric on skin. My chest bounced just enough to remind me of the forms under my bra. The panty briefs hugged me tight, giving my hips just enough curve to complete the illusion. Except it didn't feel like an illusion. It felt right. As I walked, I wondered what Josh would think, not just if he'd approve, but if he'd really see me. Not as the kid he grew up skateboarding with, or the neighbor who once dared him to jump off the garage roof, but as Brianna. And for reasons I wasn't ready to pick apart, I hoped he liked what he saw. Maybe even wanted it. Wanted me. I found him out back, sunbathing in just his swim trunks. He didn't see me approach, so I climbed the short steps, bent over, and gently tickled his ear. He swatted lazily at first, then stopped cold as the scent of my perfume caught him. His eyes flew open, blinking up at me in confusion, before he jerked upright and really looked. "Holy shot! Is that you?" I smiled, perched on the chair beside him, my hands resting neatly in my lap. My skirt had hiked up a little, showing plenty of leg, but I didn't adjust it. Let him look. Let him. "You can call me Brianna now," I said sweetly. He scrambled to sit, his eyes locked on me. And, yeah, the way he moved said everything. He was definitely having a reaction, and not the confused, horrified kind. "Well?" I asked, tilting my head. "What do you think?" "Hell, you look better than my sister does." He stared, still trying to wrap his brain around it. "How did you know?" "Never mind, I don't think I want to know." "Oh, come on," I teased. "I got a perm. My nails are acrylic. I've got more clothes than you've seen in your life. And I'm wearing padded hips, so I have to dress this way now." "You wanted a bride, Josh. Guess what? You've got one." He gulped. "Yeah, about that. When the other kids see you, I'll have your back, okay?" "You better," I said, crossing my legs slowly. His eyes dropped, then snapped back up. "And it's Brianna. Don't forget." "Brianna?" he repeated, almost reverently. A pause passed between us before he blurted out, "Why don't we go to Bobby's tonight? Like, together? You can dress up, make your debut. Everyone will meet you at once." I raised a brow. "I'll say yes, but I've got to ask my mom. Call me in a bit?" "Sure, absolutely. Brianna." He said my name like he was tasting it, like it was a secret he'd just been let in on. And yeah, he was definitely looking. I twirled on my heel and headed home, glowing. Bobby's was the hangout. Half teen club, half soda bar, no booze, all drama. It had music, dancing, a DJ on weekdays, and a live band on Saturdays. The place where crushes bloomed and reputations were made. If I showed up there looking right, there'd be no turning back. "Okay," Mom said when I asked, "but you're home by midnight." "Midnight? Come on! I've had a 1 a.m. curfew forever." "You had one, but now you're a nice girl. Nice girls are home by midnight." I rolled my eyes and muttered my agreement. No use arguing when Mom had that tone. Dad would be home soon, and I figured why not? He said he wanted to see me. I'd make sure he got the full picture. So I went upstairs to get ready. I showered carefully, keeping my hair and makeup intact. I'd worked up a bit of a glow throughout the day, and I wasn't about to let sweat ruin the masterpiece on my face. Clean panties, fresh padded panty briefs. The tight kind, the kind that helped me keep everything neat and smooth. I reached for my bra as Mom popped in. "Dust yourself with powder, hun. It'll make your clothes slide on easier." I blinked. "Dust?" She laughed, then pulled out a massive powder puff and had me strip again. The puff swept across my skin, leaving a delicate sheen and the faint scent of my perfume. My skin felt luxurious. When I redressed, everything clung in all the right ways. Then came the trick I'd read online. I used tape to gather and lift, forming modest little mounds in the center of my chest. When I slipped on the front clasp bra and added the breast forms, it created the illusion of real cleavage. It looked perfect. Mom caught my eye in the mirror and gave me a slow, proud smile. I pulled on a pair of pantyhose, then opened my closet. Tonight's outfit was already decided. The powder blue sheath dress, my favorite. The first one I ever picked out. It hugged my body, flared slightly at the hips, and hit just above mid-thigh. It was sweet, elegant, just a bit flirty, exactly how I wanted to feel. And tonight, everyone was going to see me. Not just the girl in makeup or a dress. They'd see Brianna. The best part of the dress, beyond how it fit like it had been sewn just for me, was the square neckline. It showed just the hint of curves, and if I bent forward just a little, well, let's say it invited attention without begging for it. I slipped it on, and Mom zipped it up the back, while I tried not to beam like a maniac. My body felt like a secret I'd finally told the world. At the jewelry pile, I picked out a pair of silver chandelier earrings, each dangling with a blue stone that matched the dress so perfectly it felt cosmic. The necklace didn't match, not exactly, but it was silver, simple, and Mom said it worked. I missed it on some perfume, just one spray too many, because I wanted to linger, and added a fresh coat of lipstick before stepping into the white heels. When I turned to look at myself fully, Mom was watching. "As much as I never thought it possible," she said softly. "You really are quite lovely, Brianna. And judging by today, you don't just like dressing this way, you belong this way." Her voice was calm, but there was an edge in it. "Tell me, are you scared?" I hesitated, then shook my head. I was at first. But now, no, it's perfect. Everyone knows about the party, and since I'm going to be a bride, I've got the best excuse. I'm just getting used to the clothes, right? And Dad told me to do my best. That's exactly what I'm doing. "Hmm. Is that all?" she asked. The way she said it froze me. I blinked. "Why? Is something wrong?" She tilted her head, that same knowing glint in her eyes that had always unnerved me when I was a kid. "No, but you and we both know the truth, don't we?" I opened my mouth to deny it on instinct, but nothing came out. She waited, calm as a statue. "That you've always wanted this. That when Josh gave you a chance, you jumped at it. You've played it smart, used the party to cover it up. You even knew exactly how Dad would react. You've managed to fool everyone, Brianna. Everyone but me." I swallowed, my hands suddenly cold. She stepped closer. "But what are you going to do when Josh or someone else wants more than to just hold your hand? You're pretty, very pretty. You won't be on the sidelines for long." "So what happens when one of them forgets you're off limits?" I tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Mom. Everyone knows. No one's going to try anything with me. They'll figure it out." Mom crossed her arms. "You think a guy's hormones are going to stop and run a background check? Sooner or later, one of them's going to lean in. Just be careful, Brianna. This isn't a game, and not everyone's harmless." "I'll stick to Josh like glue," I said, suddenly needing to believe that more than anything. She hugged me briefly, then turned and left. And I stood there, feeling naked in a dress that cost a fortune. She knew it all. She hadn't tried to stop me, hadn't shamed me, but she'd cut through the fantasy like only a mother could. I shook it off, checked myself one last time in the mirror, and then grabbed my new white purse. I moved everything from my old wallet into my new one, careful and methodical, then slid the strap over my shoulder and walked down the stairs to wait for Dad. When he came in, I stood up. I could hear his footsteps after he finished talking to Mom in the kitchen, and when he entered the room and saw me, he froze. His eyes widened, his jaw tensed, his mouth became a razor-straight line. "Your mother tells me you're using the name Brianna now." "Yes, sir," I said, standing tall. He stared at me. "What did you do to your hair? And your nails, are those real?" Before I could answer, Mom swooped in like a hawk. "What did you think would happen?" she said. "We went to the beauty studio like I told you. Brianna brought photos, smart ones, by the way, and the stylist did what any stylist would: match the picture. You can't blame her for not knowing it'd mean color and a perm. And yes, the nails are acrylic. Once the perm happened, the rest followed." What was she going to do? Walk around half-finished? "She's got pierced ears now." Mom didn't flinch. "So does every other girl, and most boys these days. Besides, pierced earrings are cheaper and less painful in the long run." "But I didn't." "What you didn't expect," Mom said, cool as ever, was for her to turn out this pretty. But she did. And Brianna's going to be with us for a while now, so you'd better adjust. Dad sputtered. She has a date? With who? Josh, Mom said. They're going to the teen club, getting acquainted. They've known each other since they were in diapers. Yes, back when they were both boys, Mom said, lips twitching. But as you can see, Brianna's not a boy anymore. Dad scowled. Midnight. Be home by midnight. And no foolishness. Yes, sir, I said again, heart pounding. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. Dad kept stealing glances at me, especially when I dropped my napkin and leaned over to pick it up. I could feel his stare. And yeah, he saw. The neckline, the soft illusion of cleavage, everything. I touched up my lipstick after dinner and waited by the door. At exactly 7, the bell rang. I moved to open it, but Dad beat me to it. Josh stood there, wide-eyed. His gaze swept over me, and his face broke into a full, stunned smile. He reached for my hand and took it gently. Dad didn't say a word, though I saw his jaw twitch. Josh, to his credit, acted like a gentleman. His grip was warm, and his eyes didn't stray too far. Still, he didn't head straight to Bobby's. He stopped at his house first. My folks want to see you, he said, glancing at me from the corner of his eye like I was Cinderella on the way to the ball. And suddenly, I wasn't just the neighborhood boy in a dress. I was Brianna. And the world was starting to treat me that way. What else could I do? They were going to see me eventually. Better now, on my terms. So as soon as the car stopped, I got out with Josh and walked up the front steps like I belonged there. His dad saw me, first stood up straight, eyebrows jumping slightly. Josh's mom, on the other hand, broke into a big, bright smile the second she saw me. But it was when she got closer that her smile turned into something warmer, more amused, more approving. So, she said with delight, giving me the once-over, you're Brianna. Well, now I know why Josh has been pacing like a cat all afternoon. He doesn't usually go out with girls this pretty. Thank you, I said, quiet and poised, standing just like Mom had shown me, one foot slightly behind the other, hands together in front, chin gently lifted. They didn't ask questions, didn't squint at me or glance at each other with that awkward, knowing look. They just smiled Josh's mom with genuine warmth, his dad with polite silence. We only stayed a few minutes before Josh guided me back to the car. He kept sneaking glances at me, like I was something wrapped in silk he didn't quite know how to unwrap. I ignored him, mostly. Just kept my eyes forward and let the moment unfold. When he parked at the Sunset Teen Lounge, he was out of the car in a flash, running around to open my door like he was auditioning for prom king. He took my hand gently, helped me out, then slipped his arm around my waist like it belonged there. Inside, the music pulsed through the floor. Josh spotted a group of our mutual friends' kids we'd known for years, and they waved us over. 2 open seats, already waiting. He introduced me simply. This is Brianna. That was it. No background story, no mention of weddings or old names. Just Brianna. And everyone accepted it like it was the most natural thing in the world. There was a brief scan, the kind where eyes flick from my earrings to my neckline to my shoes, measuring, calculating. Then, smiles, nods. A few impressed eyebrows, but no one said a word out of line. Josh asked me to dance, and before I could come up with an excuse, he was pulling me to my feet. I hesitated for a breath, but he was already leading me to the floor. I didn't have a choice, not really. And then he whispered in my ear, low and warm, "You're the best-looking girl here, Brianna." Everyone thinks so, even the other girls. Look. I glanced around. A couple girls were glancing over, but not with jealousy. More like curiosity. The boys. Well, they were watching too. But Josh had made his claim, and that seemed to shut the rest of them down. He towered over me, so I kept having to tilt my head to meet his gaze. It made me feel small, delicate. During a slow dance, in one of the dimmer corners of the floor, He murmured my name again. Brianna! I looked up, and for a heartbeat, I thought he was going to kiss me. He didn't, but the look in his eyes said he almost did. I shivered. He smiled, then gently pulled me closer, his arm strong and steady around my back. I didn't understand it, how he could look at me like that, how he could forget what he knew, but he wasn't playing. This wasn't some joke or dare. Josh wasn't treating me like a guy in a dress. He was treating me like his girl. When we returned to the table, eyes followed us. A few guys winked at Josh. I knew what that meant. I'd winked the same way before. They were hoping he'd tell them everything later. The girls, though, they touched my arm, patted my hand, smiled at me. I was no threat anymore. I had Josh, which meant their guys were safe. I had officially been sorted into a different category. Taken. Girl. One of them. I'd never felt anything like it. At first it was dizzying, but by the time the night began to wind down, the truth had settled deep in my chest, steady and undeniable. I was a girl. I always had been. All I needed was the space to grow into it. Josh, he'd seen it too. Somehow, without ever saying it out loud, he'd just accepted it. Treated me like someone new, without erasing who I'd been. On the drive home, I half expected him to pull over, take me to the park, or do something stupidly romantic. But he didn't. He stopped a few houses down from mine and turned off the engine. I looked at him. He unbuckled, leaned over, and kissed me. Once. Then again. Then a third time, slower. Josh, I whispered, breath catching. You better take me home. Are you afraid? He asked, voice low. I nodded. Yes. Good. You should be afraid. You're the most beautiful girl I know, and you're still my best friend. Josh. Okay. Home! But at my front door, he pulled me close again and kissed me one more time, this time deeper, his tongue brushing past my lips before he pulled away. I didn't even get to kiss him back. I stood there, stunned, watching him walk away like he hadn't just flipped my entire world upside down. Inside, I closed the door, leaned against the wall, and sank into the foyer chair. I felt electric, like I was humming with energy, emotions, and everything in between. Josh had changed tonight. I had changed tonight. Everything we were before was still there, but something new had been added. He hadn't once brought up the wedding, or the costume, or anything to remind me I wasn't really a girl. He just saw me. And somehow, that was more intimate than the kiss. I went upstairs in a daze, undressed carefully, washed my face, and headed for bed. But on my pillow was a note in Mom's handwriting. Honey, it's okay to dream about the boy who gave you your first kiss. Sleep tight. Mom, how does she always know? Seriously, how? I changed into my nightgown, curled up in bed, and tried to breathe past the fluttering in my chest. I dreamed of Josh, his arms, his scent, his lips, his height, his confidence, the way he looked at me like I was made of porcelain and heat. There were things I didn't even know how to dream about until now. And in the morning, I could still feel him on my lips. With a quiet little smile that wouldn't go away, I slipped into my new jeans, pulled on my gym shoes, and wore a soft white tee over my bra. My hair only needed a few strokes with the brush before it settled into place like magic. Thank you, Perm. I bounced down the stairs, lighter than air. Mom was already at the stove, frying bacon. Have a nice time, dear? It was wonderful, Mom, I said, glowing. I'm glad. She turned with a wink. Any plans for today? Nope, I'm free as a bird. Good, you can help me with the housework. It wasn't what I had in mind. But I smiled, because she was treating me like a daughter, and she had saved me yesterday when Dad had come dangerously close to freaking out. Sure, I said. I don't mind. We started in the kitchen right after breakfast. Dad came in, looked at me, then just sat down and ate without a word. His silence was better than protest. As we worked, I noticed the differences. Not the chores I'd helped around the house my whole life, but the feeling of doing it with a bra snug against my chest, with auburn hair brushing my cheeks, with nails that glinted every time I rinsed a dish. This was what I had wanted. And I was living it. By the time noon rolled around, we'd finished the downstairs and stripped all the beds. We took a break just 20 minutes or so, and then I started vacuuming while Mom handled the laundry. By 4, the whole house was gleaming like a showroom, and we were both exhausted but satisfied. Josh didn't come by, which surprised me a little, but it gave me time to shower off the sweat and steam from the day. This time, I even washed my hair. As I toweled off, I found myself wondering again what it would feel like to have my own breasts real ones. But for now, I slipped back into my bra, added the forms, and pulled on a fresh pair of panties and my padded panty brief. It was still warm out, so I grabbed one of my own shorts, slim-fitting, and a new top, just a thin tee with narrow straps. It clung gently, and my bra was clearly visible through it, but somehow that didn't bother me. I liked how it looked. I left my hair damp and unbrushed, slipped into my gym shoes, and headed downstairs to grab a soda and sit outside. Mom was already out on the patio, sipping her drink. "We make a good team," she said, tipping her glass toward me. "House looks amazing, and it only took a day. Thanks for the help." "No problem, Mom. I owed you one for stepping in with Dad yesterday." She smirked knowingly. "Oh, your father's fine. He was just stunned. I told him you'd be pretty, but I don't think he believed it until he saw you standing there. He just didn't think it was possible." She leaned back, eyes glinting with that sly smile, the one that always meant she was up to something or had figured out something you didn't want her to. "I read a few of the stories on your computer," she said casually. "Some of them were actually really well written. A little out there, sure, but creative. One had this detailed bit about, well, turning things inward. I thought it was a little extreme, but clever. And those forms you're using? Honestly, sweetheart, they look like foam sponges. I know you love being a girl. I see it. And if you're going to be living this way all summer, swimming included, then maybe it's time we up your game. I mean more realistic forms and a way to smooth out the front. Just visually, of course. If it works, it's our secret. Your father doesn't have to know unless he asks. So what do you think? You in?" I knew exactly which story she meant. And yes, if it worked even half as well as in the story, it would mean no more constant adjusting, no more hiding or folding or panicking when my clothes didn't sit right. I said yes immediately. Mom smiled and said we'd do it after dinner, once she picked up a few things from the pharmacy. While she was gone, I set the table and got the food started. After dinner, Dad disappeared into the den to watch TV, and Mom gave me a look. Time. We went up to my room. She closed the door softly and for the first time, turned the lock. On my desk was the printed story, highlighted, bookmarked, open to the exact section she needed. I undressed quietly, laid back, legs up as instructed, heart pounding but calm. "I raided your father's medical cabinet," she said matter-of-factly. "It's the numbing spray he uses on patients. Don't worry, it's safe." She applied the spray to my lower stomach and down. Within minutes, everything below my belly button was tingling and numb. I couldn't even tell where her hands were working. I just felt warmth and pressure, like someone folding laundry against my skin. The position was awkward, sure, a little embarrassing, but there was something deeply intimate about how gently she worked, professional, even loving. She wasn't rushing, wasn't guessing, just calmly following the steps like she'd done it before. Of course she hadn't, but it felt like she had. After about half an hour, she stepped back and smiled. "Okay, get up. Walk around. Sit, bend, move, see how it feels." I stood, and instantly I felt it. Flat, smooth, natural, no shifting, no discomfort. I walked a lap around the room, bent over to touch my toes, did a small jump. Nothing hurt, nothing moved. It was seamless. Without even thinking, I reached down and touched the area lightly. There was a softness there, a shape. I smiled. Not because it was perfect, but because it worked. Mom nodded. Tomorrow we'll get you some proper forms. You're ready. She left the room quietly. I slipped into my favorite pair of panties and marveled at how they fit now, like they were truly made for me. I pulled on a nightgown, the silky hem brushing my thighs, and crawled into bed with a kind of joy I hadn't known how to name before. In the morning, I had a brief flicker of anxiety. Would it still feel right? Would everything function normally? The splash of water in the toilet answered that question fast. I was relieved, literally and emotionally. I dressed slowly, savoring the rhythm. Bra, shorts, tee. My body looked different now, subtly but meaningfully. The lines were cleaner, the illusion deeper. I did my makeup myself. First time. Light foundation, even skin tone, a little blush, no eyeshadow, just pink lipstick to finish the look. I brushed my hair, and just like she promised, it bounced right back into shape. Easy, natural. I was getting good at this. Downstairs, Dad was already eating. "Morning, Brianna," he said, without even looking up from the paper. "Morning, Dad. Your mom said you two are going shopping again. Don't drain my wallet, all right?" "Just a few more things," I said with a smile. After he left for work, Mom and I had breakfast and cleaned up. I had no idea where we were headed, but clearly she did. The drive was longer than usual, but we finally pulled into a small plaza with about 10 shops. Mom led the way inside one of them, where we were greeted by a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a businesslike manner. Mom didn't waste time. "This is my son," she said plainly. "He'll be presenting as a girl for the next 4 months and needs to look completely convincing. No shortcuts." The woman blinked once, then smiled. "Let's get started." I was guided behind a curtain, stripped to the waist, and handed a gown while they brought out different options. After 3 tries, we found the perfect match. Color, weight, feel everything. The woman used a special adhesive to attach them, explaining it was safe and semi-permanent. They wouldn't fall off, but could be removed with care later. When I looked in the mirror, I gasped. They weren't just forms anymore. They were part of me, smooth, symmetrical, proportional. Size A. Modest. Real. I'd never touched a real breast before, but these, well, they felt real. When I pulled my bra on over them, it settled into place perfectly. And the feeling, it was complete. It wasn't about having curves. It was about finally seeing the reflection I'd always imagined, staring back at me like she'd been there the whole time. And now, she was. By the time we got home, the bags were full, and so was my heart. My reflection in every shop window felt like a reward, not a question. The swimsuit I'd picked out fit like it was made for me, hugging every curve and leaving no trace of anything other than a confident girl ready for summer. I wanted to run straight to Josh's place and show him everything, but Mom gently held me back. "Girls don't chase boys, sweetheart," she said with a knowing smile. "Let him come to you." I couldn't argue with that. So instead, I slipped upstairs and tried on the swimsuit. Blue, sleek, snug, and perfectly me. Then came the shorts, which hugged my hips like they had been tailored to my new figure. I left the pink ones on, threw on a soft top, and wandered downstairs for a snack. And that's when I saw Josh and Amber. They stood in the kitchen, like a scene from a movie, oddly mismatched siblings. Josh, with his relaxed blonde curls and ocean blue eyes, looked just as surprised to see me. Amber, on the other hand, looked intrigued. She had that same sharp glint in her eye I remembered from childhood, back when she used to intimidate all the neighborhood boys with just a look. "Josh said you were a total stone fox," Amber said, arms crossed, lips curled in a half smile. I told him there's no way a guy could pull that off. Guess I was wrong. Thanks, Amber, I said smoothly. Hi, Josh. Hey, Brianna. Amber wanted to meet you, so… He shrugged, a little sheepish. I don't mind, I said. Amber looked me over, her eyes lingering a little longer than was polite. I could practically hear her calculating. My bra showed faintly under my top, and my shorts left little to the imagination. There wasn't much room for suspicion, at least, not visually. We're throwing a little pool party this afternoon, Amber said, a casual trap hiding behind her bright smile. You should come. I didn't blink. I saw right through it. She was hoping to catch me off guard, prove something. But I'd learned from Mom, sometimes the best move is to lean right into the challenge. Sounds fun, I said. What time? As soon as you can get there, she said. She and Josh left, and I headed to my room to pack a towel and my swimsuit. I had a pretty good idea of how this was going to play out. Amber would want me to change at their place, hoping to catch me in some awkward moment and prove I wasn't what I appeared to be. Let her try. I tossed my swimsuit into my bag, grabbed some lip gloss, and let Mom know where I was going. She gave me a knowing smile and a simple nod, her way of saying, You've got this. The walk to their house was quick, my heart pounding just a bit faster than normal. Kids' laughter echoed from the backyard, and as I rounded the corner, I spotted Josh with Kyle, one of our old classmates. Amber appeared instantly. You can change in my room, she said sweetly, practically dragging me inside. She flopped onto the bed and waited. I could feel the tension thick in the air, but I didn't hesitate. Calmly, I took off my top, unhooked my bra, and set it aside. Then came the shorts and panties, all in one smooth motion. I turned slightly as I reached for the swimsuit, aware of her eyes trying to piece together what didn't add up. And she found nothing. Her expression faltered, but only for a moment. I slipped into the suit, adjusted the straps, gave her a tight smile, and left the room without a word. I was grinning by the time I hit the patio. Kyle noticed first, elbowing Josh with a smirk. I gave them both a confident wave before stepping into the pool, the water cool and deliciously affirming. A girl I hadn't seen in a while, Lincoln floated over and introduced herself like we were strangers. Amber says Josh likes you, she teased. We only just met, I said, coy. Hard to say whether he likes me or just the way I look. She giggled. Boys, right? They only care about one thing. I gave her a wink. Exactly. And if we're smart, we'll use that to our advantage. Lincoln burst out laughing. I like you already. The piece didn't last long. Kyle burst out of the water beside me, wild and grinning. Before I could react, he had an arm around my waist and dragged me under. I thrashed playfully, but he was strong and not exactly gentle. When we surfaced, I gave him a firm look, and when he got a little too bold, I didn't hesitate to splash him with a glare and walk away. Trouble, honey? Amber called after me, smug. Nothing I can't handle, I said, toweling off. Josh appeared just in time, holding a soda. What happened with Kyle? He got a little grabby, I said. It's fine. Josh frowned, but didn't push it. From the corner of my eye, I saw Amber whispering to Lincoln, who looked over at me with narrowed eyes. I could guess what she was being told. But then Lincoln shook her head, clearly not buying whatever Amber was trying to sell. Another win for me. Amber was trying hard, but I was holding my ground. This wasn't just about proving myself to her. It was about proving something to me, that I could hold my own, that I could be the girl I wanted to be, not just in the mirror, but out in the world. I wrapped the towel around my waist and leaned back in a lounge chair, letting the sun dry me off. Whatever came next, I was ready for it. Josh and I spent nearly the whole afternoon together, either floating lazily in the pool or sitting close at the table, fingers entwined like it was the most natural thing in the world. I couldn't help noticing how often he made sure we were touching, like he wanted to make a point. And I think he did. That subtle grip of his hand around mine, Wasn't just affection, it was a silent message. She's with me. Hey, Brianna, a familiar voice chimed in. Want to come change with me? It was Lincoln. Casual, but her raised eyebrow hinted at curiosity. Sure, I replied, keeping my tone breezy. I turned to Josh and told him I'd be back. Upstairs, we both peeled off wet swimsuits and wrapped ourselves in towels. The whole thing felt surprisingly normal, two girls drying off after a swim. No tension, no drama. Still, I could tell Lincoln was watching, trying to piece something together. But she didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Her silence was confirmation enough. Back downstairs, Josh had already changed, looking relaxed in a dry tee and shorts. He smiled the second he saw me. That smile never failed to give me butterflies. He stayed close, hovering protectively, and just before I headed home, he leaned in. Can I come over later? He asked quietly. Yeah, I said. Sure. Walking home, I couldn't hold back the grin stretching across my face. Amber's little ambush had flopped spectacularly. Whatever she'd hoped to expose, whatever gotcha moment she had planned, it had backfired. I owed that win to Mom again. She had prepared me for this, more than I realized. After a long, hot shower, I chose a skirt and blouse, no shapewear, no extras, just me. I redid my makeup, brushed out my hair, and wandered downstairs. Mom wasn't home, so I made a sandwich and flopped in front of the TV. Josh arrived a little later, and the second he saw me, something changed in his eyes. His grin was unstoppable, and so was his hand reaching for mine. And when he kissed me, I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I leaned in. Every time his lips touched mine, it felt like a spark. Something lit up inside me, warm and overwhelming. I didn't understand it fully. I just knew I liked it. We sat together outside, talking about everything and nothing, Amber's schemes, Kyle's nonsense. And then Josh stood up suddenly, pulled me to my feet, and wrapped me in his arms. There was no hesitation in him, no uncertainty. His lips found mine again, deeper this time, and I melted into the moment. When he touched my chest, I startled slightly, but he held me gently, steady, safe. I could feel his heart pounding as he pulled me closer. Or maybe that was mine. The space between us disappeared, and even though I wasn't ready to take things too far, I didn't want to let go either. His chest was warm beneath my hands, and I found myself toying with the soft trail of hair there. He trembled slightly under my touch. Something about that small vulnerability made me feel powerful and nervous all at once. Then, his hand shifted lower, and instinct kicked in. I gently stepped back. Josh. He paused, immediately catching the shift in my tone. I didn't mean to go too far, he said softly. Yes, you did, I replied, trying to keep my voice light but firm. And you're a brute, he laughed quietly. Yeah, maybe, but you're a maiden. Maidens always fall for their brave saviors. And what exactly did you save me from? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Kyle, he said with a smirk. He thinks you're hot. Bet Amber loved that. She'll deal. You really messed with her head today, you know. Whatever you did, whatever you became, it's real to her now. You made her doubt everything she thought she knew. I'm not worried about Amber, I said. I'm worried about you. Me? What did I do? Well, for one, you keep trying to get in my head. I smirked. He grinned right back. You know why I asked you to do all this, don't you? Why don't you tell me? Because, he said, his voice softer now. You're like a toasted marshmallow, tough on the outside, but totally gooey in the middle. Always have been. I figured, with your frame and how kind you are underneath it all, well, you'd make the perfect bride. I blinked. Bride? I didn't expect you to be so cute, he continued. And damn, Brianna, you are cute. Everyone thought so at the lounge the other night, even the girls. I swallowed. Josh, we're both guys. You remember that, right? I do, he said. But it doesn't matter. I don't see him anymore. I see you. I want you to be my girl. Not because it's easy, but because we already have what others don't. We have history, trust, connection. He pressed something into my hand. Cold, heavy, his class ring. Say you'll keep it, he said. Say you'll be my girl. My mind was racing, but the answer had already formed before I could overthink it. This was what I'd always wanted to be seen, accepted, wanted. And not just by anyone, by him. I smiled, reached up, and pulled him into a kiss. It was my answer. Later, we sat together in the backyard as twilight dimmed the sky. I slipped the ring into my pocket and let him hold me, stroke my hair, kiss my cheek. He didn't push for more. He didn't need to. For now, this moment was enough. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Sooner or later, I knew things would change. The summer wouldn't last forever, and neither would this fragile illusion. One day, I'd have to go back to being a boy, at least, in appearance. And then what? How would I even look myself in the mirror, knowing how far I'd let things go with Josh? Knowing what he felt and what I'd let myself feel too? I went inside an hour later. Josh stayed behind, walking home with a spring in his step and a dazed grin. He had a girlfriend now, in his mind anyway. But the truth was more complicated. That night, I took the ring he gave me, strung it on a gold chain, and set it on my dresser. It sparkled quietly in the low light, like a promise I wasn't ready to make. I lay in bed feeling restless, my mind replaying everything from Josh's kiss to the warmth of his arms. My body was still humming from it all. And though I wasn't proud of it, part of me still chased that feeling something real, something undeniably mine. I didn't know where the boundary was anymore, only that I was crossing it with every breath. Sleep eventually came, but not before I whispered his name into the dark. The next morning, I stood by the mirror, slipping on my shorts and top, pausing only at the chain. The ring hung quietly, but I didn't put it on. Not yet. Not until I spoke with Mom. She was already in the kitchen, coffee in hand, eyes trained on me like she could read the weight in my chest. She waited until I sat across from her before asking, "Everything okay, sweetheart?" I hesitated. Then it came pouring out like a dam breaking. I told her about Josh, about what I felt when he touched me, the butterflies, the heat, the confusion, the way my heart fluttered when he held my hand, and the way my stomach dropped when I thought about losing him. I told her everything well, almost everything, enough for her to understand just how deep this went. She didn't interrupt once. No judgment, no horror, just that steady, soft gaze of hers, and her hand resting gently on mine. "I knew," she said at last. "Maybe not everything, but I knew something changed in you after our first trip to the mall. At first, I thought it was just dress up, a bit of fun. But then I saw you bloom. You weren't pretending anymore. You were becoming." Her voice cracked just slightly. "And it was beautiful." I felt my throat tighten. She smiled. "Brianna suits you. You've stepped into this life so naturally. It's like it was always meant to be. The way you talk, move, smile, it's not forced. It's you." She gave my hand a soft squeeze. "I may not fully understand it, but I can see the truth in your eyes. And about Josh? Honey, you're not the first girl to fall for her best friend. Trust me." I laughed through a tear. "But I'm not really—" She cut me off gently. "What you are is how you feel. That's what matters. The rest, that's just details." I nodded slowly, feeling a strange kind of peace begin to settle. "But," she added, her tone shifting into serious mom mode, "we do need to have a talk, a real one, about boundaries, about hygiene, about what it means to carry yourself like a young woman." My face flushed instantly. "Mom, nope. You brought this up, and I'm not going to let you go into this blind. You've already crossed some thresholds. I'm not going to pretend you haven't." And then she did what only a mother could do. She launched into a calm, embarrassingly thorough conversation about everything from personal care to emotional readiness. I wanted to crawl under the table by the time she was done, but deep down, I was grateful. She treated me like a daughter, not a case study. Now, she said, standing up and brushing off her skirt, go change into that blue dress. Heels, pantyhose, full makeup. We're going out. I blinked. Where? You'll see. But if you're going to be Brianna, you'd better learn how to walk in those heels in public. As she gave me directions, I slowly realized we were heading to Dad's office, his domain, his castle, his fortress of rules and procedures. I felt a chill of nerves flutter through me. When we got there, we waited a few minutes before he opened the door and waved us in. We've spent a lot on you, Brianna, Dad said calmly. And while I don't mind, it's clear you needed the support. We think it's time you earned a little of your own keep. Since Alice left the receptionist job open last week, guess what? It's yours. I blinked. Starting tomorrow, 8:30 sharp, he added. Business attire only. No jeans, heels optional. But I expect you to look like you belong at the front desk of a doctor's office. He handed me a stack of forms. Already filled these out. Just sign at the bottom. My eyes dropped to the name. Brianna Nicole. My full name, bold and printed. Sex, female. I didn't hesitate. I signed. He told me the pay rate more than I expected, and then threw in the kicker. If you like it and do well, I'll train you as a dental hygienist. Pays triple. I hugged him on the spot. Mom and I left his office, and I started work the next morning. The job came naturally. I picked up the scheduling system, organized files, dealt with patients, even the grumpy ones, and slowly became part of the office rhythm. I saw Dad every day, and even though things felt awkward at first, our bond grew stronger. We shared lunch, swapped stories, and, surprisingly, he started asking about my life, my real life. Things with Josh cooled a bit. We still talked and met up, but the constant daily presence faded. Mom said that was healthy, that some distance kept relationships real. I didn't know what to think, except that I missed him. Then, out of nowhere, one day during lunch, Dad looked up from his sandwich and asked, "Do you think you're ready to give up the padding and just become the real thing?" I nearly dropped my fork. I had no idea what he had in mind, but the thought made my head spin. He didn't explain, and I didn't push. He was still my dad and a doctor with connections. That was enough for me to hope. A few nights later, I had my first bridal dress fitting. Josh's mom, Linda, came too. She was paying, after all. I didn't mind. She hadn't seen me in weeks and seemed genuinely surprised by how far I'd come. At the bridal studio, I tried on at least 10 dresses before we found the one. White satin, Irish lace, fitted bodice, low neckline with sheer lace over the chest, sleeveless, elegant. It felt unreal. But they didn't alter it just yet. "You'll need proper undergarments next time," Linda said with a wink. I just nodded, not really knowing what that meant. Saturday morning, I found out. At a high-end lingerie boutique, I got fitted into a white satin and lace corselet. Mom laced me in so tight I could barely breathe, but when I looked in the mirror, the results were stunning. My waist was impossibly narrow, my chest full, my shape hourglass. Mom smiled. Then came the satin panties, the garters, and white hose. I stood there, looking at myself, and for a moment, I forgot who I used to be. This was me now. This was real. We went back to the bridal shop for the final alterations. The dress fit like a dream. When we got home, Dad was grinning like he knew something. "Papers for you to sign," he said. "Legal name change, driver's license, school records, everything." I signed. No hesitation. Then he gave me a small injection. "Hormone booster," he said casually. "Strong stuff. By the wedding, you'll likely not need the extra padding anymore." I hugged him. Later that day, I saw Josh at the door. He looked like he hadn't seen me in a month, even though it had only been a few days. I've missed you, he said. I've been working, I teased. Unlike some people. He ignored that. Mom says you look amazing in the wedding dress. You'll see it on the day, no cheating. Can I at least see more of you until then? How much more? I raised a brow. You know, he grinned, more. I laughed. Josh, you're still a brute. A handsome one, but a brute. And no, you can't see what you're getting. That's what wedding nights are for. If you're that curious, buy yourself a mirror and your own panties. We both burst out laughing, leaning on each other, breathless. Every time we were together, we teetered a little closer to the edge, brushing up against that invisible line. But somehow, we never crossed it. Not quite. Until last Saturday night, when the rules got fuzzy. Josh had me burning again. I'd touched him just barely, just over the fabric, but it was a leap I hadn't imagined taking. And he knew exactly how to work me. Mom's voice haunted the back of my mind. It won't be long before someone whispers in your ear, and you'll forget how to say no. She was right. Josh had that lizard-lipped magic part charmer, part daredevil, and he knew how to wind me up with just a glance, a graze, a word murmured too close. That night, things went a little further. His pants weren't between us anymore when I reached for him. And when he gave in, completely, I didn't flinch. I wasn't ashamed, just resolved. That was as far as it was going to go. School was coming weeks away, and I was returning as Brianna, not just in name or look, but legally. Dad said so when the documents arrived. With a fresh new identity in hand, Mom and I dove headfirst into a shopping spree. Dresses, coats, sweaters, heels, accessories, the works. Josh and I reached a kind of unspoken boundary. He knew it. He tested it anyway. The first time I let him slide his hand lower, underneath, he paused like he'd found a hidden door. Amber had told him things, sure, but feeling them was something else. His fingers traced a soft, slender line, and his shock was raw and wide-eyed. That's when I helped him, silently, boldly. After that, though, we froze the clock. School came, and with it, 1,000 nervous questions. What would Josh do? Would he stay close or disappear into self-preservation? But no one suspected. No one blinked. I wore a simple skimmer dress, flared just enough, a white cardigan, low heels. I was just another girl rushing to homeroom. Except beneath the layers, everything had changed. The hormones Dad gave me had worked fast, almost too fast. The breast forms and padded briefs were gone. I still used a little lift in my bra, but not much. My body had begun to mold itself into something unmistakably feminine. Dad saw it. He never said a word. He didn't have to. He treated me like I'd been born his daughter, like nothing had ever changed. Josh walked beside me through the halls, quietly staking his claim. His eyes said it all. She's mine. I wore his ring every day now on a chain, over my heart. Saturday, the wedding party, the real deal. Mom, Linda, and I went to the bridal studio to pick up the dress. When Mom laced me into that corselet, I barely winced. My body had softened just enough, curved in the right places. The swelling in my chest gave the lace something real to cling to. I caught my reflection, and I believed it. I was the bride. Linda watched quietly as I changed. When I stood in nothing but satin panties, she smiled not awkwardly, but with a kind of quiet pride. Her only comment was, "No wonder Josh is so taken with you. You're absolutely stunning, Brianna." That morning, Mom took me to her salon again. Nails, makeup, hair styled in old Hollywood curls cascading down my back, like something from a film. At home, I soaked in a bubble bath, shaved carefully, and slipped into those whisper-thin panties. Just as I started to fasten the corselet, a knock came. It was Amber. She breezed in, sat at the vanity, and locked eyes with me. "Mom said you were beautiful, and she undersold it," she said, cool and amused. "Thanks," I replied, cinching the laces around my waist. I brought you a surprise, she said, tone teasing. Don't get mad, but we kind of arranged something. A full wedding, like the real thing. I blinked. A complete bridal party, she went on, with you as the bride. Most of the boys backed out of the bridesmaid roles. They looked ridiculous, so we scrapped that idea. But you, Brianna, you're the real deal, so you're the only bride tonight. Mom chimed in, grinning. Amber's your maid of honor. Lincoln Avenue and Courtney will be bridesmaids. We all agreed. There was no time to think, only act. I sat on the bed and rolled up the white hose, clipped them to the garter, adjusted everything to mid-thigh. Amber helped with the corset, then the gown. It took all three of us to guide the dress over my curls without ruining the style. The zip slid into place. Then came the heels, the pearl earrings, the choker, the scent of my perfume in the air like a final flourish. I stood still while Amber snapped photos. One of me, one with Mom, one with Amber. When she left, Mom told me to stay upstairs while she and Dad finished getting ready. I sat there, alone with the mirror. Tonight, this wasn't a game, or a fantasy, or a party. This was a wedding, and I was the bride. It should have been pretend just a rehearsal, a moment staged for photos and memory. But the second the music swelled and I walked down that aisle on Dad's arm, it all became something else, something real. Josh stood at the end of that impossibly long walk, beaming like I was a miracle, and he had been waiting his whole life to witness it. His hands, his eyes, his smile, none of them questioned. They only accepted. They celebrated. The ceremony wasn't legally binding. There was no minister, no papers. But in every other way, we were two people making a promise in front of friends, family, and the people who had watched our story unfold, piece by delicate piece. That night, we left together, no more pretending, no more waiting. It wasn't about lace or lingerie or the borrowed bridal suite. It was about the look in his eyes when I let the last layer of doubt fall away. About finally feeling safe enough, loved enough, to stop hiding even the smallest part of myself. The morning after, the silence wasn't awkward, it was full. Full of new understanding, quiet warmth, and the steady heartbeat of something real. Mom knew. Of course she did. The care bag she left, the smile she wore, the way she held me when I came home, it all said, "You are still my child, and now, more than ever, you are whole." Dad took longer to find his words. But when he did, I felt like the most loved daughter on the planet. Life didn't stop there. Josh went off to serve, and I kept moving forward too quietly, determinedly. And when he returned, I had changed more than he could have imagined. Not just my body, but my future. We made it official. Quietly, privately. Just the two of us, a justice of the peace, and the promises we'd already made in our hearts. And in time, with science on our side and love in our hands, we grew something new. Something small, soft, and full of light. She has his smile, my eyes, and a laugh that could melt steel. And now, as I watch her sleep our daughter, our beginning, I know for certain. This life is not a rehearsal. This life is mine. And it is real.